Hello guys, this is Matt of Model RR3102 here, back again on the layout. Today I'm going to be reviewing two brand new locomotives. They're both the new ScaleTrains -9s in the Rivet Counter line. The first one is the BNSF H2 scheme number 4336 as delivered. And my second locomotive is of the Santa Fe War Bonnet number 666 in the as delivered paint scheme. Both locomotives are equipped with sound from the factory with the ESU Loksound 5 decoders. The newest ESU Loksound decoders starting in 2019. You can get these locomotives DCC ready or DC or with Loksound 5 decoder, as I just said. The Loksound 5 equipped locomotives run for $264.99 and the DCC ready models run for $174.99. The Rivet Counter locomotives, the road names for the first run include Norfolk Southern modern versions, mainly with the PTC versions. There's one without PTC on it. There's the BNSF H2 as delivered versions, which is what I just showed you. The Santa Fe version, which I just showed you as delivered. And Union Pacific X Southern Pacific repaints with the red sill stripes. So this would be like before 2005 era. There's also the operator line starting at $99.99 DCC ready or $149.99 with the ESU Essential Sound Unit sound decoder that's running for $149.99. That run includes Chicago Northwestern, BNSF H1 scheme, Norfolk Southern, and Union Pacific with the red sill stripe. And again, you can find these either at ScaleTrains.com, which I believe they're temporarily sold out until the pre-order deadline closes, or through your select retailers. So let's get started with the unboxing of the locomotive. For the sake of this review, I am only going to unbox one of the two locomotives. I have selected the Santa Fe version to unbox. So this is the front of the box for any Rivet Counter locomotive starting in 2019. And this is again the Santa Fe locomotive. With all newer ScaleTrains releases starting in late 2018, they have these factory sealed stickers that you have to cut open. If you get one from a dealer, there's a chance that they may already have broken the factory seal to test the locomotive. So there's one factory sealed sticker broke, and I'm just using a flathead screwdriver just to break this apart. Okay. So factory seal has been broke on the Santa Fe -9. I'm going to open up the box. Here we have an operator's manual that talks about the locomotive. On this page it talks about the lubrication, maintenance, and how to remove the shell of the locomotive. On this page it talks about the DIP switch, which is mainly used for the ESU decoders. And that is what ScaleTrains recommends you use if you install anything on a DCC ready locomotive. If you have a DCC and sound equipped locomotive, you again have a ESU Loksound 5 decoder from the factory. There's the customer service contact information for ScaleTrains. I have dealt with customer service I think once or twice, and they're very good about things. So they also have some of the functions listed for the DCC and sound version, including the function mapping, basic things about the Loksound 5 decoder, and the horn and bell. And on this page they talk about the function button and sound slot chart, and if you have a Digitrack system and trying to program CVs over 255. I mainly use a ESU Loc programmer now to do my programming, so that is not anything for me. So, and this manual, that's the back of the manual. It does say revised May of 2019 for the ESU V5 decoder. ESU has made a few changes to the V5 decoder since the first run-ish, if you want to call it, with the BNSF number 4313 and the NS 9692, which I have on this layout currently. And now that's the locomotive. It sits in between some foam inside the locomotive. It did know that this locomotive rocked back and forth a little bit inside this, so do note that when you take the locomotive out and you shake it. I'm going to slide this piece out as part of the two-piece cradle. There's little foam inserts on the top and bottom, and they include extra rotating bearing caps, as most if not all Dash 9s had some sort of trucks with rotating bearing caps. So got some little plastic protection. Lift the locomotive up. I did note that there's one of the truck clips already came off on the rear, so just the front one needs to be detached. And now I'm just gonna put this on the track here and get this all out of the way. And before I do any of the details on the locomotives, I am going to weigh up the Santa Fe Dash 9 and the BNSF Dash 9 and do a couple tests, including the coupler height and the wheel. So here we are at the weight scale, and I'm just gonna turn this on right now. One thing to note is that when I did my review of the Norfolk Southern 9692 back in late January, early February, that locomotive weighed 23.8 ounces, which is 1 pound and 7.8 ounces, or 674 grams for those that are not in the United States. So I'm gonna weigh the Santa Fe version and see what we got for a number. I got 1 pound 7.5 ounces. I'm just got 23.5 ounces and 0.666 kilograms, or 666 grams. And ironically, if you can't tell, Santa Fe 666, and yes, that is the devil's number, my friends. Okay, now it's giving me 668. Okay, now we're back to, it's going between 666 and 668. My original number was 666, so I'm going to call that 666. Just like the real locomotive. Now with the BNSF version, I'm at 668 on the grams, 1 pound 7.6 ounces, 23.6 ounces. So just slightly lighter than the NS-9 I received back in late January, early February. But they are right around the same weight. So now let's do the coupler height and the wheels. So like all other ScaleTrains locomotives, ScaleTrains puts on their own proprietary metal knuckle couplers on all the locomotives. One thing I have noticed between previous ScaleTrains locomotive announcements up until now is that they now use a black, the coupler is black, instead of the usual light brown, tan-ish color, if you want to call it. Eventually I am going to put Katie number 156 and 158 couplers on these, but for now, at least for this review, they're going to have their own couplers on. So I'm going to use a Katie number 206 with the 158 scale head coupler on the gauge, and it looks to me as if the coupler is just slightly high on that front compared to what I have. Again, when I did this review, the Dash 9, I believe both couplers were low. So, snudge high, if not good enough, on the front. And on the rear, it is low. Not by a whole lot, but it is low. So slightly high on the front, slightly low on the rear. Now we're going to go, and that was for the BNSF version. Now we're going to go to the Santa Fe version. And looks to me like the coupler is again high on the front. And let's see. For the rear, it is low. So 2 highs on the front and 2 lows on the rear. And now let's do the wheel gauge. Okay, so I'm going to test the Santa Fe version out. Okay. Okay, wheels are good on the Santa Fe 666. Now for the BNSF version. And I'm going to start with the rear this time. All the wheels are engaged on the 4336. So now let's get into the details. So let's start off with the details of the Santa Fe Dash 9. I'm going to start with the front of the locomotive, then the rear of the locomotive, the sides, and then the rooftop details. So one of the interesting aspects about the Santa Fe Dash 9s is that they have the wide handrail profiles on the front and rear of the locomotive. And the wide handrail profiles are more commonly seen on the railroads that run on the East Coast, like CSX and Norfolk Southern. And Santa Fe used the wide handrail profiles on all the GE locomotives, from the Dash 8s and the Dash 9s. And because of that, then they also had the pilot mounted ditch lights down here with the uncoupling lever going right underneath them. Then you got separately applied grab irons on the front of the nose. You also got some grab irons up here, which I'll talk about when we get to the rooftop details. You also got a window on the door, and then down below you got a ScaleTrains.com knuckle coupler, metal die cast with the snowplow, the MU cables to hook up to other locomotives. Then you got an air hose down here, and another MU cable up there. And then you also got the number boards mounted on top of the cab. And this is a GE wide cab, of course, with a gull wing roof profile. So what I'm talking about here, the gull wing profile, is this little dip down here, and it angles right around here and right around here. And you also got separately applied sunshades on the side of the locomotive. Going to the rear, is pretty blah, but they do have a high mounted rear sand filler. That is what I'm talking about. There is right above the headlight here, and then you got the dual vertical headlight on the rear of the locomotive. And again, there are no ditch lights on the rear of the Santa Fe -9s. And then again, the wide handrail profile. That's again like it is on the rear, on the front of the locomotive. MU cable, MU hoses, air hose, and the coupler, along with the coupler cut lever bar. So now let's start on the engineer's side. So one of the things I like to point out is the step well. On the Santa Fe's, they are a 4-step see-through step well. So what I'm talking about is the steps going up to the walkway. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again they're see-through. Compared to the BNSF version, which is 5, it's 2, 4, 5. So that's what also makes the Santa Fe -9s unique compared to others. The trucks. Now Santa Fe ordered the -9s in 1994, just 2 years before they merged with the Burlington Northern to form the you-know-end-all BNSF. The trucks are the high-ad trucks, and these from number 650 through 699 are the late high-ad trucks with the non-cantilevered struts on all 4 sides of the locomotive. On all 4 side frames, that's what I meant. So what are the non-cantilevered struts? So these are these little bulge things that stick out on each end of the truck. And then you got the rotating bearing cap piece right here. They also, on the Santa Fe -9s, have the spare knuckles on the rear engineer side truck and on the front conductor side of the trucks. And these non-cantilevered struts are on all 4 side frames, so on the back and on the conductor side, along with on the front, both engineer and conductor side. Moving down, you got dual fuel fillers with a blanked one on the rear. That's the blanked one right back here. Dropped my little handy pointer. And then you got 2 separate air tanks with the upper mounting brackets, as they are shown right here. And that's the other fuel filler back here. And then again, the trucks with the non-cantilevered struts. And I'm going to move the Santa Fe locomotive this way. Let's see if I can get in close on that GE builder's plate. And I think that's as best as I'm going to get to the builder's plate. Now let's move to the engineer's side, conductor's side. We were just on the engineer's side. Again, you got the dual fuel fillers with the blanked one on the rear. And then you got the AC unit, which is a Motive Equipment ME7000 HVAC unit. And on the Dash 9s, the air conditioner units were typically positioned up here, while in the AC 4400s they were positioned down here. Then you got the dynamic brake vents back here. And then again you got the spare knuckle holder in between on the conductor side front of the locomotive. And just like all other Santa Fe Dash 9s, they got the GE steel bell. And you got some chains back here. Now note that the chains are not real chains, they're molded in plastic, but they look good. Then you got the brake wheel on the back. And most of the side details I already covered on the engineer's side. So let's go up on top. One thing I do like to point out on the Santa Fe Dash 9 is that they do have 3 side windows on the cab of the locomotive. So those are the 3 side windows right there. Now on the Santa Fe Dash 9, there's quite a bit of differences on the tops of the locomotive. They do have a 2-piece grab iron on the nose of the locomotive. For the antennas, they got a large Sinclair antenna, ice skate antenna right here. There's also a small Sinclair antenna for the end of train, and then a small cone antenna right down here. Moving to the back, you got a nice lost wax brass Leslie RS3L horn, and then you got an early exhaust stack, early flanged exhaust stack on the back. And by eye, the early exhaust stack looks a hair taller than the BNSF Dash 9s. So now let's move on to the BNSF locomotive. So now let's start off with the details on the BNSF 4336. And there are quite a bit of differences that stand out between the BNSF H2-9s and the Santa Fe War Bonnet. So the BNSF Dash 9s, they have the same air conditioning unit as the Santa Fe's. However, and they do have the same gull-wing cab, but instead they have the 4-window cab on the side instead. And instead of having the cantilever struts on all 4 sides of the trucks, they're only located on the rear side of the conductor side in the rear, and on the engineer side up on the front. And that's how the Santa Fe Dash 9s were like later on in their lifetime when they went to BNSF. So these are again laid high-ad trucks, and there are no cantilever struts up on this. This is just a regular lay high-ad truck. Got a light steel bell, but now you got the cantilevered struts back here. Now they're slightly different from the non-cantilevered struts. The cantilevered are more out this way, and you can almost see a little bit of the inside of the truck, of the rotating bearing cap when they rotate inside. Okay, you got the brake wheel in the back. They do have dual fuel fillers on this one. It's the first, and there's the second, along with the dynamic brake fans back there. And I'm going to turn this over to the engineer's side. So unlike on the Santa Fe Dash 9s, the spare knuckle holders are not on the trucks, they're on the rear pilot, just like on most other GE locomotives. And then the air are separate with lower mounting brackets, and the mounting brackets are down here. I'm going to try to see if I can get in better on the GE builder's plate. And it does say Dash 944 CW down there. Camcorder doesn't really like to focus in close, unfortunately. But as I said earlier, you got the 5-step step well. And again, the dual fuel fillers on the cab, on the fuel tank. Another thing I like to point out on the BNSF Dash 9s is that the doors on the long hood are tall, unlike on the Santa Fe's where they're short. So now let's go back. Now, like I said earlier, the knuckle holders are on the rear pilot, just like most other GE locomotives. The sand fillers on top, like on the Santa Fe, along with the dual vertical headlight. Now, the BNSF Dash 9s, and like any other BNSF locomotive you see out there these days, mainly, and Union Pacific, they have the narrow handrail profiles, and again, they're more common on the West Coast railroads like BNSF, Union Pacific, Canadian Pacific, which is partly why I like to call the narrow handrail profiles as the West Coast type handrails, and unlike the Santa Fe Dash 9, the wide handrail profiles as the East Coast handrails. And then you got the usual knuckle coupler, air hose, MU hoses, MU cables, and a couple of cut lever bar. Moving to the front of the locomotive, they got the window on the nose of the cab, on the door, separately applied grab irons. Then you got the narrow handrail profiles. Now, unlike the Santa Fe Dash 9s, the BNSF ones have the deck-mounted ditch lights, and deck-mounted ditch lights can be found on pretty much any other Dash 9 out there in the United States, like Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, Canadian National. And then you got the smaller snowplow with the coupler, air hose, MU hoses, uncoupling, cut lever, and an MU cable. So on the BNSF Dash 9, then you got cab mounted number boards with a nose mounted headlight. You got the 2-piece nose top grab irons right here, just like the Santa Fe Dash 9s. On the roof, on the cab of the locomotive, they got the octagonal antenna dome on the roof, and this was more common on other Dash 9s in the United States compared to the Santa Fe Dash 9, where they have a few more antennas. So the BNSF locomotives had the Nathan K3LA reverse 2 horn, and it's a lost wax brass horn. They also had the late non-flanged exhaust stack housing back here on the locomotive, and I might be able to get you. And that's what the exhaust stack looks like. And then back there's your radiator. So let's turn the track power on and test out the sounds and lighting of the locomotive. Alright, so I got the Santa Fe number 666 on the track right now. I'm using my ESU cab control system to do all the DCC work, and this is my first review with the ESU cab control system. My last review I have done with the Digitrax Zephyr Extra system but I have now since been using the ESU cab control system for everything. So let's start up with the locomotive with function 8, which is what they use for the ESU Loksound decoders, is function 8 to start up the locomotive. So that's the startup of the locomotive there, and it has a new Dash 9 recording that ESU brought out this year specifically for the ScaleTrains Dash 9s. So I'm going to turn on the headlight, function 0, and the headlight is pretty bright, I'll be quite honest with you. The number boards are lit pretty well, so good job to ScaleTrains there. When I started up the locomotive with function 8, the number boards came on, along with the walkway lights. There's one on the front, one on the rear of the locomotive, and then there's an engineer side walkway light. And maybe I'll bring this in a little closer. So if you see that light underneath the Santa Fe logo, right underneath the Santa Fe logo, there's a walkway light. And that is something new that ScaleTrains has been adding to the locomotive announcements. Is walkway lights, front, rear, and engineer side. I'll show the engineer side walkway light later when I do the BNSF. So now let's bring this back a little bit. Function 1 turns on the bell. F2 is the horn. Function 3 is the coupler crash. And now I'm disabling function 3. Function 4 is the dynamic brakes. I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. Function 5 is apparently the DPU mode light, which, let's see if that even works on the Santa Fe version. Locomotive is now in reverse. And I just turned on function 5, and yeah, that is the DPU mode lighting. The Santa Fe did not have their Dash 9s equipped with distributed power. That was something that was added later to some of the locomotives. I don't think a single Santa Fe Dash 9 ever got distributed power, so that's something that's actually inaccurate for the Santa Fe Dash 9, is the DPU mode light. Now the locomotive is back in front. Function 6 turns on the ditch lights, the pilot mounted ditch lights. When I blow the horn, they should not flash. There is no function 7 on this locomotive. Function 9 is the drive hold feature, which is something that has been used on all ESU decoders since 2016. Function 10 is the independent brake. Function 11 is the manual radiator fan. Function 12 is the headlight dimmer. And it turns off the ditch lights. Function 13 is the air dryer. There is no function 14 or 15. Function 16 is the air dryer on shutdown. Function 17 is the automatic brake set and release. Function 18 is the sanding valve. Function 19 is the short air let-off. And function 20 is the air compressor. Now I'm going to move the locomotive at speed step 1. And actually, for this demonstration, I'm going to turn on function 4 for the dynamics. Now that's the rear headlight, and I don't know why my camcorder seems to be out of focus. And you should be able to see from this angle the rear walkway light on the Santa Fe -9. Now with function 9, I'm going to go notch by notch. So now it's going from notch 1 to notch 8 back down to idle. So I'm going to turn off the headlight and I'm going to shut the prime mover down. So that's the sound and lighting of the Santa Fe -9. Let's move on to the BNSF now. Okay, so here's the BNSF H2-9 here. Since I did most, if not all, of the sound and lighting features of the Santa Fe version, I'm just going to do a quick run-by of things just to test out everything with the BNSF locomotive. So here's function 8. Here's function 0, headlight. And yeah, there is a function 5 DPU light. That's when function 5 is on, that's DPU mode light. I believe the 4336 is equipped with distributed power, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so I would have to double check with that. Function 6 turns on the ditch lights. And it looks like that engineer side ditch light, yeah, that's not working, so I'm gonna have to look into that and see if that's a programming issue, if that's an actual bad ditch light there. So already one light out on this BNSF locomotive. Here's the bell. Here's the horn. Alrighty. So that was the horn there. And here's speed step 1. That is speed step 1. Now I'm going to increase the speed a little bit. There's the reverse light. And let me flip this locomotive around just so you can see the engineer side walkway light. And yes, as like all other ScaleTrains Rivet Counter locomotives, they have on their motherboard a big supercapacitor, otherwise known as a ESU power pack, built into the motherboard. That'll give the locomotive up to 4 seconds extra of capacity, or stay alive, on a locomotive when it goes over like dirty track or a bad switch. So going forward now, if you look closely, you'll see that engineer side walkway light, and you'll see the rotating bearing cap spin. That's the Walkway Light right there. So now I'm going to turn off all the lights and shut the locomotive down. So now that the locomotive is shut down, let's wrap this review up. So there you have it, folks. That's my review of the BNSF and Santa Fe Rivet Counter line from ScaleTrains C44-9W, or otherwise known as the Dash 9. With the exception of a couple flaws, mainly the coupler height and the bad ditch light on the BNSF model, I think the model is very good. It stands out to what it should be as a definitive Dash 9, and it goes up as high as the NS-9 I reviewed in the winter. About the sound file, this is a ScaleTrains sound file that they used from the factory. Pretty much the same sound file that they used on the NS version back in January when the Loksound 5 was just coming out. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not really a big fan of the ScaleTrains sound file that they use for the Dash 9s. They have the same prime mover on another sound file out on ESU's website that you can download with the Lok programmer, and it's the same prime mover but gives you more features and the features you would expect from a Loksound 5 decoder. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I will put in the video the ESU sound file number that you can install and download for the Dash 9s, and they pretty much are already preset for the ScaleTrains locomotives. So other than that, that's all I have to say for the Dash 9s. I do have one Dash 9 on pre-order for the second small run in the winter. That's of the BNSF H3 repaints, and I'm getting number 4434 on that. Whether I do a review on that is beyond me, since this is already now my second review of the ScaleTrains Dash 9. I'm probably not going to do a third one. I might do a review next of the DM&E Mount Rushmore unit, which is coming out this winter as well. So anyways, if you have not already done so in this video, hit the like button on this video, and if you are not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, Model RR3102, please hit that subscribe button and you will stay up to date on my layout updates and these awesome reviews. So see you next time, and have a good rest of your day.